Hey there, and welcome back to Nightmares at Home by Juanplay over on GameJewel, a game where night after night you're tormented by familiar figures of the past and you don't understand why. All you know is that you must survive the night. It's time to finally confront what you've done all those years ago. Spoilers ahead, along with flashing lights.
Your judgment begins now.
Once you wake up, you're given some time to look over the game's controls and mechanics. You can look towards the computer, which allows you to access your home's security system with various cameras around your home. You can also look towards your room or towards the window. You can also hide under the desk to stay hidden from any threats. However, all of a sudden the lights begin to flicker. With the lights out, your only option is to use the flashlight to scare away any threats that might appear, starting with Fredbear.
It is a shame to be in this place, so dark, cold, empty and desolate, bewildered not knowing what is going on around, what things could be lurking in the darkness, and what sinner they could be looking for. This room has what, unfortunately for you, you have always been used to using. Maybe you will survive if you use those tools in the right way.
Now initially, Fredbear won't appear, so you're given some time to examine the cameras and look around your surroundings. At some point during the night, Fredbear will appear in your laundry room and slowly make his way to the window on your left. Once he arrives, he'll taunt you with his laughter, where you must then use the flashlight in order to scare him away. Now it's imperative that you use your flashlight to only scare off any threats due to the limited battery. After all, you wouldn't want to be lost in this darkness without it. You'll also notice that on the camera system there is a flash function available to you, but this isn't something that's going to work for Fredbear. Once you reach 6 AM, a new post-night section begins where you're in a room wearing a foxy mask, surrounded by 3 doors. As you approach one of these doors, you get the idea to block the door. You find a key on the floor and proceed to lock the door, which is followed up by frequent banging from the other side. That's when you wake up once again on the floor of your room, but in an attempt to escape, the door is locked.
Too bad. You won't be able to open that door. Your useless hands won't let you do it. I don't think. But they will. If they do open that door, you better not let them see you. Not everyone is sensitive to that flashlight. And as for the little black bunny, keep hitting the flashlight every time he enters this room. And hey, to the darkness, they are looking for him.
Now we have 2 new characters this night, a little black rabbit and Nightmare himself. For now, your light in the room is working, but it'll eventually flicker and turn off, leaving you in complete darkness like the first night. Occasionally, the little black rabbit will appear somewhere in your room, watching you either from afar or right in front of you, and you must shine your light at it until it goes away. With Nightmare on the other hand, the flashlight will not work. He'll make his way from the laundry room to your room, a lot like Fredbear, but this time entering through the front door. When he opens the door, you must hide under your desk until he closes the door. After surviving this nightmare, you get another post-night section where you're wearing the foxy mask once again and hide behind a TV until your younger brother appears. So now it's clear that we're Michael, currently in the process of bullying and tormenting our younger brother. And of course, like last time, we wake up once again on the floor, but this time decide to take a look outside, where we can see the crying child stare from afar, until they appear quickly at the window and disappear once again, causing the beginning of night 3.
Believe me, you don't know what could be out there lurking. Right now, the safest place in this whole world of darkness is this room. Speaking of the outside window, somewhere in this house is that thing which apparently you usually look for. Now, he is looking for you, and he already knows that you are here. He is somewhat foolish with you. I don't think he will give you a hug if he sees you after so much time. So, stay alert to the camera where he is to prevent him from moving. He likes the surprise factor. If he comes to your room, well, don't let him enter through that window. I think that would be the last thing you would like to happen if he enters.
Now night 3 is a special one because it's time for your most favorite person of all, Springtrap, who resides in the arcade zone. Probably the weirdest room this house has. He'll slowly start moving throughout this camera and make his way towards the door leading outside, attempting to escape and reach for your window. And you must stop his progression by watching him occasionally. If he manages to escape your gaze, you must now turn your attention to the window where he'll attempt to peek through and attempt to open it. Use your flashlight to scare him off, but make sure that once you scare him off, he returns to the arcade zone, because if he doesn't return, then there's a good chance that he'll just reappear again at the window, trying to catch you off guard. Night 3's post-night section is very similar to Night 2, where you must now hide under your brother's bed, where you scare him once again, reminding you of the torment you put him through. You are then shown multiple messages written all across the wall, with a purple eye and burning images in the background. A figure that you may have not seen before, but is still awfully familiar.
Maybe you don't know who it is, the one who caused the chaos, but believe me, it is the same person maybe, in a not too distant future. Use the flash of the cameras to prevent him from advancing to your room, unless you want to die the same way he will die and die, in his time. Oh, and don't flash in his initial camera, or he will get more furious.
While going through the nights, slight changes have been occurring on camera, transforming your home with Fazbear decorations and memorabilia, and this also applies to your room, where now we have writing on the wall. However, that's not all that's new, because now Burntrap is here, who will make his way to your room while transforming your home into a burning hellscape as he traverses through the cameras. In order to keep him away, you must use the camera flash to push him back to the previous camera. However, sometimes when you attempt to push him back, he'll block his eyes from the bright flash, which I'm personally not a fan of. It gives this mechanic a chance of failure that is not in the player's control, which led to some pretty frustrating moments for me personally. I must admit though, the idea of your home temporarily running ablaze with Burntrap getting closer to your room adds some tension to the night, especially considering it makes it harder to hear any sound cues over the flames. The best part about this though is that if you manage to keep Burntrap back long enough, any rooms that were lit ablaze will eventually return to normal, kind of a prize for managing to get some sort of comeback against Burntrap. After what was a very frustrating night for me personally, we have another post-night section, where we find the psychic friend Fredbear in our brother's room. When looking at it, we are told, "Follow me." After entering one of the rooms, we see the crying child moving from room to room, leaving us to follow behind for a while. You'll eventually find yourself in a long hallway that leads to an employee-only room.
Why such cruel acts against such a lonely and desolate soul? What was the reason? You could have chosen. You could have avoided all this, but no. Everything had to end, as we all know. So sad.
Now, nothing really gets added to Night 5 except for increased difficulty, so we're pretty much skipping it and moving to the end of the night, where we find ourselves in another long hallway during the post-night section, which depicts our memories, including some of the previous post-night sections that we already played through, such as locking our brother in his room, scaring him from the TV, and locking him in a room at Fazbear's Pizzeria. All of this led to the moment of truth. Now we take a trip down memory lane, every step on this horrible journey from 1993. A bygone era in 1987. Then we head far into the future. We reunite with our father once again after all this time. Back to where our journey truly began, as Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. All of this has led to our last location, where it will all end. But before you can do that, you must take responsibility and own up to the consequences of your actions one more time. Now here's where things get a little interesting, because the spirit we've been talking to all along is our younger brother, who is also the Nightmarian.
I never understood why I had to suffer all this. Why? What did I do to deserve this fate and the short life I live? With fear, darkness, and nothing but loneliness. It is a shame that now you are going through what I had to go through when I was in that loneliness. Now, it's your time to face the consequences. Your decisions and your actions will be judged, and your destiny will be decided by you for the rest of your conscience. All ends here for you, right now.
Now, to try and keep this very brief, I had a lot of different theories about what was going on in this game, from it all being our mind games, right, us kind of punishing ourselves for everything that's happened so far, to Charlotte actually being responsible for everything. It was quite confusing, but honestly now I think the narrative is intended to be our younger brother trying to judge us for everything that we've done, right? Specifically how we treated him, which led to his death. I think that is pretty much where everything is supposed to culminate, and I'm not gonna lie, it took me a while to get there, but I think that's what makes most sense narratively speaking. Even though the idea of the younger brother becoming the Nightmarian is a bit weird, that definitely threw me for a loop. But I think I'm ready to accept that now, because otherwise I have to contend with Charlotte being the one trying to punish us, which feels really random, given that this whole story is about our younger brother. With that said, we move on to the final night, where the Nightmarian's mechanics, now that they're introduced to the night, and finally taking charge, so to speak, will pretty much evolve through the night, eventually replacing Fredbear and Nightmare as we go along as well. At first, the Nightmarian will be on camera, and you must avoid flashing them at all costs, or else the camera will go offline for a while, which puts you at risk of being caught by Burn Trap or Springtrap. If he appears on the left where Fredbear usually is, or outside the window, you must stare at him until he disappears without using your flashlight. The only time you'll be using your flashlight is later on during the night, when he actually starts to appear inside your room. Finally, if you notice him trying to get in the room via the window, it's hard to explain because there's like a specific audio cue for it, but at that point the game kind of tells you when you're supposed to hide and whatnot, and you're supposed to hide under the desk until he goes away. Once 6 AM arrives, you begin to float towards the Nightmarian before you inevitably fall through the floor in a pit of darkness, where finally you wake up in the FNAF 6 location while Henry gives his FNAF 6 speech, and you start to look around this crumbling establishment, hyperventilating, until a voice calls your name and a door of white light appears behind you. As you head towards the light, your younger brother appears, and you embrace them, and they seem to forgive you, and in a way you finally relieve yourself of all the guilt that has plagued you during this time. And then everything fades to white, which is the end of Michael's story in Nightmares at Home. And that is pretty much what I would consider a good ending to Michael's tough story, given everything that he's gone through in the FNAF timeline in general, right? Which this game assumes. And while it took me a while to get to this interpretation and narrative with our younger brother judging us, I think it's definitely the more fitting narrative compared to Charlotte and just our mental guilt pretty much getting involved in all this. With that said though, there are definitely some things in the game that still confuse me. One of which is the inclusion of Burn Trap. That is just kind of weird because it's an alternate version of Springtrap, right? Obviously, it's like, literally the spirit says, this is an alternate futuristic version of Springtrap. Not in those words, but they pretty much imply. I mean, obviously, if you've seen Security Breach, you know this already. And it was just a very odd inclusion, just from, I don't know, maybe it's just odd because obviously we know Burn Trap exists in FNAF canon, so it's weird to like make that sensible in a fan games timeline in a way, considering that Burn Trap doesn't exist at this time. Just a bit of a weird inclusion there. But the other weird inclusion is the presence of Charlotte's spirit, right? The child with the tear tracks, the ghostly child. That's part of the reason why I thought Charlotte was the one behind all this. But now that I go through the game under this new narrative of the younger brother being responsible for everything in terms of the gameplay, what is the other child then? The child that we see outside the window from the different rooms, who is that supposed to be? Is that supposed to be another interpretation of our brother? Is that what that's supposed to be? Because, I mean, thinking about it, we see that child go on and then we see our brother, but I don't know if they're intended to be the same person, especially because the game kind of differentiates them in the extras section. Unfortunately, I never actually knew there was an extra section until I was making this video, but literally the extra section has the little ghost child, literally named Ghost Child, and has our younger brother named Crying Child, kind of indicating that they're two different people. But then what's the Ghost Child's role in all this? Very weird. That's definitely something that I'm not sure what to make of. But with all that said though, overall it's a nice look into Michael's psyche at the end of what was an arduous journey. He spent a long time trying to right the wrongs of the past, right after Sister Location, going to all the Fazbear establishments, putting the spirits to rest, searching for his father to put a stop to him, even at the cost of his own life, where he's pretty much set up in this fake pizzeria to bring everyone back in one spot where it'll all end. When playing the FNAF games, you don't really think about the state of mind that Michael's in, other than the terror of dealing with these animatronics, right? But it's like thinking about what Michael might have felt when he sees the spirit of his brother in the Golden Freddy suit, for example, right? It's me. Like, trying to get an idea of what he might be feeling at that time. I think that's a very interesting idea because it's not something that we really see from Michael, especially considering Five Nights at Freddy's, for the most part, has a mute protagonist, right? Michael never really speaks, so it's kind of hard to get an idea of what his mental state is during those games. So a game like this that kind of covers the guilt that he's felt because of everything he did to his brother is pretty cool to see. But of course, with all that said, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Lets me know you're enjoying the content and want to see more of it. I definitely have a better appreciation of this game's story now more than anything, especially before. It was just really confusing at first with Charlotte and their potential involvement in all this. But of course, I hope you did enjoy it. Again, the game's in the description below as always. Great job to everyone that worked on the game. Juan Play, great job. And with that said, I'll see you in another video. Take care.